No matter what, always thank your haters. We're going to talk about that today. This is Freedom Friday, and you're still not free. Welcome to Freedom Fridays, friends. It's another Friday, but you are still not free. Today, we have very special guests on our show because we are still not free. We need some backup, and we brought the full slate of the 8 Black Hands. So, y'all get ready to catch these hands this morning. Fellas, welcome. Dr. Charles Cole and Marlo Stansfield, thank you for joining the Freedom Friday podcast this week. This gives us additional star power to talk about something very important for our friends and family. You know, there are young dudes that oftentimes will stop you and ask you about your activism. They will ask you about your social media, the things that we do. We talk insistently and consistently about Black education, about Black families, communities, teachers, educators, building Black schools, rebuilding Black capital. That's what we do, right?
Mhm.
Some of us run schools, in your case, Ray. Some of us are building the educator pipeline, in your case, Sharif. Some of us try to make research livable and readable and usable for the masses, for the people, for the Black masses. And that's what you do, Charles, right? I actually run an enterprise where I try to support Black influencers, people of color influencers, marginalized voices to have a voice in the education game so that they are actually trying to get their own troops rallied for better education, for better schools, for better outcomes, and ultimately for freedom, like to be free, finally, after years and years and years, decades and centuries of not being free. That is the goal. Today, the reason I want to talk about haters is if you think you're going to do this work and never encounter people who want to try to wash away everything that you have to say because they like the status quo, they like the way that things are, you're fooling yourself. So today, fellas, let's jump in and talk about what would you say to people that want to do this work, but they're a little bit afraid of the haters, the fear tactics, the attempts to ruin their career, and all of that? Let's start there. And who wants to jump in first?
Well, what Marlo's thing, what does that mean? But anyway, I usually it's some kind of phrase or something that I can generally follow. Now I'm just like he doesn't change his whole name. The Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great setup, Chris. I think the number one thing is exactly what we're doing. Like, find your village, find your squad. Don't go alone. Know that for surety. If you're talking about anti-racism, if you're talking about combating anti-blackness, if you're talking about addressing the systemic, historic, entrenched, institutional, and individual racism that makes this country run, know that people are not going to be happy about that. They've never been happy about it. Like, you can point to any time on the plot line. Oh, this happened. This was actually anti-racist. There was backlash individually, collectively. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You should know with surety that that's coming. So be proactive, have a village, have a community, be organized, tap in, stay in community with others. That would be my first and most important points of advice.
That's good advice too, because the village came through. I mean, we're skirting around an issue right now. I will just say this. We're skirting around an issue that there was a major smear piece put out on me this week
Mhm.
by a MAGA fueled right wing blog that went into the rightosphere of Twitter and had people checking in on me, had people like, calling me up and saying, bro, you okay? You
Mhm.
good? Blah, blah. This Smear Piece went through probably 15, 20 years of my writing to look for evidence that I'm a racist against, apparently, I guess, against white people, right? So the Village thing that you just said, I hadn't even thought about that on day one of seeing this Smear piece come out this week. I was like really high on the fact that I had another piece coming out this week that I was really proud of, put a lot of work into. So I wasn't really paying attention to the Village piece. But then when people started checking in on me, I thought, wow, this is dope. Like, there are really people, like, the work that I have done has actually been noticed by people, like, over time. So thank you, haters. Thank you, haters, for exposing where my real friends are and exposing the fact that having a voice over a long period of time actually reaches people. And haters, thank you also, because you introduced all those folks to my work. A lot of people to my work that didn't know my work this week. So,
right. And in my circles, folks that may not have read your work before, they're like, yo, I've wanted to say this for so long, or yo, this is exactly what I experienced, right? And so, like, the thing about haters is they never are in the communities that they're talking about, right? Like, so the haters on the piece that you wrote, they're nowhere near proximity to us, so they have no idea what's being said at Black water coolers. And the Black water coolers ain't just in whatever organization they're in. Our Black water coolers at the barbershop, on the corner, walk in the park, on the courts, on the field, at our dining room table, in our living rooms, in the car rides, on Twitter, right? Like, that's our Black water cooler. Like, they go about Black Twitter, it's Black everything in all types of spaces, because we're in community with each other. So that's just another aspect. They're so far away. They're at the moon talking about what's going on in a Black community. Like, speed on before you get peed on is what we used to say when we were kids. Like, just go
on. Other fellas jump in. Raymond, you've been quite active in battling the bots. It's been the battle of the bots on Twitter or whatnot.
Yeah, it definitely has, bro. And so for me, man, it's interesting, right? Because I see them come for you, and the last thing that I would ever categorize you as is being someone that's racist, right? For obvious reasons. And we are the harshest critics of the Black community, right? We don't need anybody else to come in to police Black minds and police Black bodies, especially if you're not Black, right? We don't need your opinions. We didn't ask for your opinions. We're not surveying the scene, wondering what white folks think about Black people or any of that garbage, right? If we want to police our own, we can do that. And I think that the brilliance from some of your writing in the past is that it's true. It spoke truth to people, right? And so having to go back and reread that stuff. So here are my things, right? If you are coming into this work and you're a school leader, let your results speak for you, right? I just put out a whole slew of results in terms of our students being in the second year of us having a high school, and the results speak for themselves. Like, our kids are killing it. There's no COVID learning loss and like all that myth that people put out. Our kids are knocking it out of the park. Named myself Marlo Stansfield today because Marlo Stansfield was one of the stars of The Wire. And one of his famous quotes is, "My name is my name," right? And so any of you folks that are in that Trumpian camp that feel like you want to say my name, there's a reason why this show is called The 8 Black Hands, because these hands can meet your face, right? And I want to be super clear about that. Super clear.
Why is that line famous? My name is my name. That's
famous? It's perfect, beautiful. It's a beautiful scene, bro. It got turned into an album by Pusha T. Like, the scene is just one of the best scenes in television history, bro. It's just
my name is my name.
Marlo was just,
that was very profound.
Standard. It was a change in a very famous show, and things shifted from there, and it's a very famous.
Yeah, I heard of The Wire. I actually watched a couple episodes when
it was a cultural episode, brother. It's a cultural episode. But
my name is my name.
My name is
my car
name,
is my car. My afro is my afro.
I've definitely said it. I've definitely said it before.
Your pick is your. I'm sorry, Charles. Real quick, your pick is your pick, and you don't use it.
There you go.
But actually, I know we're joking, and I know that Ray is really good at putting those name things. But I do think it's actually profound in the sense of the purpose of him saying that at the moment was that basically his people was like, "Yo, Marlo, you're this big guy. Why are you responding? Why are you taking this action? Why are you going hard? And Marlo's thing was, my name is my name. I don't care how rich I am. I don't care how popular you think I am. I'm a man first. And this is the repercussion for that. And I think it speaks beautifully to what happened. It's like, yo, Chris, Ray, why are y'all going back and forth with these people? Why are y'all like, hey, no. I built this name from nothing. I came from nothing. I used to work in fast food or in restaurants, and you know what I'm saying? I've raised been raising kids for 3 decades, what Chris would say, or Ray, like, yo, I came from Covington, Louisiana. This is what my life was. And now I'm doing this and I'm actually serving kids. Like, you don't get to tear down my name without me being party to it. So I actually think it was a bit more profound. I think, as this show is around dealing with haters, I'm a little less on the education Twitter sphere as you all are, because I've divested. And I think that the question that you asked to start this, Chris, when young people come up to us and they talk about, I want to do what y'all do, I want to be a part of this. I think I wanted to go last too, because I probably struggled with this the most in front of y'all. Y'all have seen me. I started, I'm not going to go in too much into family business, but I started like, yo, we can take this thing far. We can have like a Netflix show. We can do this, that, and the third. And then after a year and a half, 2 years of doing this, I'm like, I don't want to do nothing. I don't even want to be friends with a lot of these people. I don't want to deal with enemies and some of those people. It can be a very frustrating space. And one of the things I try to build and work on with people that I love, care about, and work with is that, what is your square? What is the square that you stand on, regardless of what's happening, regardless of what's going on, regardless of what is happening in the ecosphere? What do you always bring? And if you stay true to that, if you stay there, you will be okay. Like when me and Chris were just breaking down the stuff that they was going into or whatever, right? Like me and him had a moment together and he was just like, man, I've been consistent for a long time. I've been good for a long time. Thank you for showing me how good I am. Like, hater, you actually made my day. You actually made me feel, you actually showed how profound I was. And here's the other thing, Chris, that I was reflecting on, I forgot to mention. Remember before we did the show, when we first started our friendship, and I was the person over at HuffPost, and remember you had got me in the Ed Post. I was like, well, let me try to get my man Chris in there. And they just, for whatever reason, we couldn't get you in there. So the irony and the movement of you wasn't on there just as like a regular guest blogger. You had like a featured piece that was in that space. We've come a really long way in these last 5 or 6 years, and the people that we serve have come a long way. So when you think about these haters, it is a interesting balance. You have to take care of you. Ray made a mention of it, but I say this as well all the time. I'm always afraid that these white folks gonna take everything from me. There's always something in the back of my mind. And maybe that's that trauma. Maybe that's growing up in shelters or whatever the case is. I've said it on our show and I'll say it here. If I gotta lose everything, I'm gonna lose it on my terms. And please don't be the reason that I lose everything. Because if I gotta lose it and go back to where I came from, I'm gonna make it so worth it for me. And that ain't gotta make sense to nobody else. So tread lightly. I don't go back and forth with them trolls on there because I got about 2 messages. And then I'm like, well, when are we meeting up? And when we gonna have a nose-to-nose conversation? And then I done made it worse for everybody. And ask me if I'm lying. Ask Ray. Ray has been there with me when he's jumped in and stuff. So I don't even jump into the beefs unless I'm like, let me check in with y'all first. All right, this is my approach, because I don't want to escalate things. I just don't come from that world where people can say whatever they want to you and ain't no consequence. I'm not a tough guy. I've never been a tough guy. I'm not a fighting dude or whatever the case is. But I come from a place where if you say the wrong thing to somebody, they'll punch you in your fucking mouth. And so I just wanted to you got to know who you talking to and know who you picking at, because the 4 of us are very loving people. We care about our community, but we all 4 of us have very different demeanors. Calm that shit down. Calm it down, and let's have a conversation. But don't come tapping in my feet.
Well, I'll say this, it goes back to, though, what you just said is very true for people listening who want to be activists. You have to know your why. When you say stay on your mark and stay on your square, and that I've tried to be consistent over many years, I have a beginning premise that we are still not free and we still have not overcome, right? That means that you have to analyze. I have to consistently think about injustice and the systems that we are in and what we need to do to get out of the systems or improve the systems or whatnot. That's my why for the education discussion, period, point blank. If your why for the education discussion is about smaller government, or how can we fight and battle about, issue after issue after issue that doesn't have anything to do with justice or whatnot, I can see why you don't like what I write. because my right is a critique of the United States. It's a critique of history. It's a critique of the system. And you can pull up my writings going back to the 90s. And guess what? You can pull up something I wrote in 1996 that says exactly what I just said to you, right? You can pull up something in 2000 and 2001 and 2005 and 2006 and 2016 and 2018 and as of last week, and they will all be the same thing, a critique of the United States and the system, the systemic racism that we have not beat yet, right? So thank you, haters, for exposing more people to the longest term critique that I have had, which is the system's unfair, it's not working for us, and we need to do something different. Now, your why might be different, though. Like somebody who came at me this week, grew up in rural Indiana, then went to an all-white Christian college, evangelical college, and then went to teach in the Indianapolis public schools and got fired because he was mad about diversity efforts. That's my opponent. And what you have to say sometimes is you have to pray to God and say, God, please make all of my
That's not your opponent, bro. That's not your opponent, bro.
Just say
You're a
that
big
part
dog,
again.
bro. You're
he
a
ain't
big
your
dog.
opponent.
That's not your opponent, bro.
Well,
You
no,
are
no,
a big
This
dog.
person,
Like-
wait a minute, Chris, just say that again. This person was an educator.
Yeah, and
And-
got fired from the Indianapolis public schools for making secret tapes of people who were doing diversity and inclusion trainings. And then he ended up on Tucker Carlson like they all do, right?
Bro,
like,
that's the pivot. That's the
like,
pivot.
like know nothing white guy in a school who gets mad ends up on Tucker Carlson in 2 days, and then they have a Twitter following, and then they think they're famous. That's their why, right?
Okay.
That's their why.
All right.
Right?
That's helpful. That's helpful.
That's their why,
intel.
right? You got to know where people come from. And what they're
I
doing.
can't teach.
No.
I'm racist, and now I got a little. I think I have a platform.
So the moniker says award-winning science teacher, but then when you go in and you start doing some digging, like I went to School Digger, I think the school was like the high school was ranked 270 out of 388 schools.
Oh, but
Well, look,
that's
wait,
only because
wait,
that's
hold
only
on,
because
Chris. Hold on, Chris, Ray, and Reef. We had a whole pre-production meeting.
Yeah, my bad.
So this person ain't no more fire, right? I think it's bigger than this person. I think this person is a microcosm of a larger thing that we're talking about. And it was making me think because a lot of people have been picking up our ebook, the On Code book. And I wrote something a while ago that's kind of an on code for allies. Like, what does it actually mean for you to be an ally in this type of moment, in this type of space? And I think we should probably revisit it and add it, or, I'm working on something, but maybe we can all chime in on it in the sense of there are a lot of people that want to support our work that might not be Black, that might not understand all these kind of inner dynamics, because what I did see is a lot of times when these haters, these kind of right-wing, white type, nationalist type people come in, they'll say something, they'll use something that a Black person says that they can't say on their own, and then they'll start liking. So like a certain term they can't use, and you can just see the glee in their faces and in their voices. And I think that we have a lot of people that follow us and love us and care about us that are not from our community. And right now they might be a little bit confused on how they need to respond and react. So Chris, do you have any advice, or anybody actually, just for those supporters of ours that might feel like they stuck between a rock and a hard place? Because like y'all said, what we care about is freedom of Black people and education. And what happens is that doesn't fall into a left narrative, and obviously it doesn't fall into a right narrative, because don't be my friend if it only is serving your overall purpose, but you get mad at my own level of agency when I feel different ways. I don't feel the same way as a white nationalist does. We might agree on like very small things the same way we can agree that the sky is blue, but this is my issue that I care about. But don't get it twisted. I will never be your puppet. And even to my own people, man, I've been a Democrat or whatever the case is, but all this we hate choice and we love unions and traditional schools, I don't fall into that narrative. I am a free thinking Black man that's going to think whatever the hell I want to think. And if you decide that you no longer
they
like
don't
me,
they don't like free thinkers, bro.
If you decide that I am no longer able to be your friend, or you can be in community with me because I think for myself and my thoughts are not hurting you, then we have a larger issue. So I just didn't know if y'all wanted to give some advice to people that might be trying to figure out how to support us.
This is a brilliant point, though, because this opens up a part of the discussion that I should be clear about. you should expect that you're going to be attacked for being free thinking and sticking to justice. But you should also be aware that attack, the same type of attack, is going to come from the left and the right. So this isn't a right wing thing. This isn't just about like, oh, we're on the left and it's right wing things. Because first of all, I'm not on the left, right? I'm independent, right? Like I'm free thinking. I'm heterodox. I am not like beholden. I'm tribeless. I don't have a tribe, right? I'm for justice. And like Malcolm said, like, I'm for truth, no matter who is for it, or I'm for justice, no matter who's against it, right? That's the framework. That's my frame of understanding all this, which means I'm going to have liberal people who are going to make the same attack that right-wing people make when their interests are in trouble, right? So this smear piece that, started us to want to even have this show this week is the exact same smear piece that was written by some leftist people a few years ago. So it's the same attack, oh, you're a black man just getting paid. You're just a shill. You're just working for the man. You're working for the billionaires and they're paying you to say what you're saying or whatnot. And then because that attack is so useful for the left and the right when they disagree with you to marginalize black voices who want to be independent and free thinking independent of the left and the right, you just have to have your core set. Know what you are for. Like I just said, Malcolm said it for you. Be for truth, no matter who's for it. Be for justice, no matter who's against it. That makes sense as a frame. But Charles, your question about how can allies be set up to help you be that free and independent person is, first of all, they have to know you and know your work. So you have to have relationships with people on all sides, right?
Okay.
Because right, like I have friends on the left and the right. I have friends that are libertarians, Green Party members, Democrats or whatnot. They don't agree with me on everything. They disagree with me on a lot of things, but they know where the heart of my thinking is, the heart of my work is. And because of that, they will ask questions, Charles, like you just asked, like, how can I support you in a time like this? Like, I haven't agreed with you on everything, but I can see this as senseless because I know you better than what this piece is about. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, let me tell you how I can be helped, right? Don't do anything destructive. Don't jump in where you don't need to be or anything like that. And in this case, I think a lot of people in the village, that's exactly what they did because they have relationships with me. Ask the question, how can I be supportive, right? And that's a good ally. A good ally is like, I'm not going to think I know what's best for you in this situation, but I am going to be with you. I'm going to ride with you. You're not going to be riding alone on these type of things when they happen. Because the worst thing, Letter from a Birmingham Jail talks about allies who go silent in time when you need them to be vocal, right? Who see you getting ringed through listen, Martin Luther King and everybody else, our history is always so important. Martin Luther King and everybody else had these moments where even their allies were silent while they were being abused, right? Or, they called Martin Luther King every kind of communist, Marxist, troublemaker, riot maker, nationalist, separatist in some cases. And this is the man that was for integration or whatnot. They said all this same, the playbook is old, right? So Charles, your question about like allies, you have to even look at history. How were his allies helpful and useful? And what was his response when they weren't helpful and useful? Letter from a Birmingham Jail is a perfect example of his calling out of allies. This question you just had. I'm sorry to go on and on about that.
But... No, I think
this is your space, bro. You should be going on and on. I think what was helpful for me in terms of talking about allyship is the black women, bro. Like they came and they just poured into me, man, like both publicly and silently, like hitting me up like, hey, are you good? Hey, is there anything that we can do? You got folks that follow us that are like, yo, I'm going to take this battle on, right? Like folks that we argue with in terms of like, hey, is this the most positive energy or conversation that we can have? But they were on Twitter going to war for us, man. So shout out to them and shout out for the folks that, that came, that understand that the work that we do is like super important. And that, I have folks that were saying, I would trust you before I would trust any of them with my black babies, light skin or dark skin, right? And so that shit it meant the world to me for me to hear that from them, right? And Reef, be quiet, bro.
I am quiet. I am quiet. If I had words, I'm lost for them now. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that was important, man. And I'm Charles, I'm glad you named that, bro. The folks that just came to our aid, that was just like, yo, listen, you don't have to go through this alone, right? Because sometimes when you have to go through these things alone, man, that shit is hard. It's a rough road.
I mean, that's how
Yeah.
I met Ray in the first place, was that he was going through something that I didn't identify as, oh, you're going through something. I identified as, I've seen this a million times. This is going to happen a million more times.
Mhm.
Like, which one of
Yeah.
us don't know somebody that has had a moment, like had one of these moments that we're talking about, like in their activism or in their work, where somebody has filed a complaint, a suit, or it's all kind of like a version of the stepping in the elevator and a person clutches their purse, right? Like like you're a threat before you even get there. You have Black
Yeah.
administrators, Black teachers, Black principals, Black superintendents who have all gone through something. I've collected so many stories over the years of superintendents being run out of town for dumb shit, right? Like teachers collecting harassment from parents because they gave a bad grade, so now they're going to make it about something else. The coach who gets fired because somebody didn't like that they didn't put him on the team, so they culled the internet and pulled up some big Facebook thing and made it a thing. This story is as old as time. It's old as time, and we need our people to know, be prepared for it, but stay on your mark. Like Charles is really good at always saying, like, I'm not gonna get knocked off my mark. Well, it's easy to get knocked off your mark where you feel like somebody has like tried to own you in this way.
Yeah, I want to, Ray brought up something that I just want to double down on, this idea. Like, yeah, we have the brotherhood, right? Like, no doubt, it's strong. It's, like it's what we do. It's what we've done historically. It's what we, pour into our children, our communities, and Black women, man. The times that I recall being in spaces where folks were coming at me, the sisters, I mean, a perfect example, and I talk about her all the time because I think it's so important, but Yvonne Savior, who taught me how to teach, who taught me how to lead. I remember like folks were coming at me, and who had roles, who had supervisory roles, because they were just like, yo, like this is, that's too pro-Black for, for our situation or what we're in. I'm just like, this is a Black school. And I remember they even had critique of, just a poster that I had of Malcolm in my office. And Yvonne Savior was just like, listen, you ain't got to get into hand-to-hand combat with it, right? It was like she was a strategist on top of everything. And sis then sent me a gift. It was a larger poster of Malcolm framed. I didn't even have a frame. I was just like had a picture. She got an even larger one and with a poster and a frame. And what I learned from that was just she was all about strategy. She was all about like, okay, this is how you respond to the nonsense. This is how you double down on your work. This is how you don't get pushed off of your square. And this is how you have these your support within the community, and that kind of buffers so much of it, right? And so even when they're putting forth all this energy, it's ineffective. It's just energy that they're wasting, but it's actually bringing, there's a scripture in the Quran that talks about like, when evil is given towards you or towards you, you know what I mean? Like that can be turned into good for you. So they may be coming with bad intentions, but their very bad intention actually turns into blessings for you. And I've just seen that play out in so many different ways. But shout out to the brotherhood and the sisterhood, who holds us accountable, but also pours love and support incessantly.
Yeah, I have 2 points that I think are somewhat connected to this as we're giving advice to other people that might want to do this. But to wrap up this piece around for those that want to be allies or co-conspirators or whatnot. And I think Ray and Reeve did a really good job of pointing out our Black women. I think that was beautiful. And like our Black brothers. And there's something kind of germane and kind of in our DNA about how we show up for each other. For the people that may not be a part of that community, like I have friends that are not a part of my general community and I don't know how they handle things. I don't like, and if they're kind of going at it, but I want to be supportive, hey man, hit them up. Ask them how they can be supportive. You know what I mean? Because what I don't want to see some of my friends doing is when there's Black issues. Like sometimes there's Black shit. right? Like, and if you my friend or my enemy, some stuff just ain't a good look for you to like insert yourself into that part of the conversation. It's just not gonna end well for anybody. The same way it wouldn't for me with somebody else. But I would say reach out and show that public stand of support. And then y'all can kind of figure that piece out together. My 2 points that I think are really important. Y'all remember, if y'all are coming up and you want to do this stuff, have you a crew, and y'all need to have some ground rules in that crew. The fellas know this, and I've been very transparent with them. Again, I'm not going into family business, but there's stuff that I've struggled with, like just as far as being in this space. I've almost left this space a few different times, and I'm gonna be very honest on Freedom Friday. But remember that moment I had, and I'm like, listen, if we in a mall and somebody getting jumped, if one of y'all are getting jumped, I'm just jumping in. I don't know who's right or wrong in that moment. I don't know what that is. And if you're wrong, when we on the ride back home in the car is when I'm going to correct you. But I'm not going to let somebody else who is not of us and not with us pull you on these hot coals while I'm in front of you. And you have to, if you have a crew, you know what I'm saying? Even regardless of what happened, man, if that's your man, if that's your lady, if that's your people don't get to like publicly try to humiliate your mans or your people, because what they're trying to do is show breakage in your friendship, and they want you to make a public statement against this person or whatever because they can have that piece. So I think that part is just really important. The second thing that's important, this is more of a Sharif thing, and Sharif, you can put this up after I do it because you're going to be more elegant with it, is we have to actually live restorative justice in the ways in which that we talk. What do I mean by restorative justice? Restorative justice does not mean that there's no accountability within your community or accountability amongst your brothers and sisters of your group.
Exactly.
What it means is we're going to deal with that internally. I'm not handing people that I love over to these people that don't love me, that don't have the best intentions, and to be honest, ain't really interested in a restorative type process to make that person whole. All of us have things that we deal with. None of us are perfect. And there's moments like this that humble us to be like, okay, if anybody wants to ever wake up one day and choose violence against us, it's probably possible because nobody's perfect in this world that's trying to act like it's perfect. But we have to restore with each other. So what that means is if I'm just super wrong, whatever the case is, I might be, but if I'm getting jumped, I expect Ray, I expect Chris, I expect Sharif to be like, hey, you getting stomped out right now. I'm in here right here with you, bro. We just about to get stomped out. But in that car ride home, they're gonna chew me out and be like, what was you doing? Like, hey, yo, what's boom, boom, boom? But at least I know that that's rooted in love. The conversations I'm having right now is about love for each other and love for people. And you will not be able to last long in this work if you're not loved or if you don't have love around you. And I'm telling you, there have been times where I felt like I didn't have love around me, and I just been like, fuck it. Like, I can go do something else, but I'm gonna do this how I need to do it and kind of isolate and separate myself. So I just want to give some honest, real advice, because people that's going through this, like, you might see the trips, you might see the stuff that we do, you might, like, Chris and I are in Miami right now. It's a beautiful, blessed thing, but we work very, very hard and we get really good results in what we do. But it's also a lot of stuff you got to deal with. It's also people trying to tear down your companies. It's also people trying to take food out of your mouth. And for somebody who grew up homeless, I take it very personal. I take it very personal because all I see is you trying to put me back in the shelter, and I will die. I want to be very clear. I will die before I go back to what I came from. So don't play those games with me. I don't play like how y'all play. Like, some communities play different. So I just wanted to make those points to anybody that's thinking about getting into this game.
Hey, Reef, you know better than anybody else, I don't drink coffee, and I think that people that drink coffee are weak-minded, right? And so when I invite somebody out for coffee and they actually think that it's about coffee and not me smacking the piss out of you, then you got things wrong.
I don't know what all that means, but I'm drinking coffee right now, and research would counter whatever you just said about coffee drinkers. But go ahead, Chris.
You know what? Let me
Random
say,
Ray, you might save us from Random Ray.
I was about to say Random Ray he does his thing every time. Thinking about what Charles just said, though, love for your people will have you fight with each other and show solidarity in public and correct with love in private. So I think that's like a really big takeaway that Charles just laid. I don't want that to go away. I want that to be like one of the rules of the game. I do think this thing around the attempts will be to take something material from you. It's not just to smear you. It literally is to have you lose your job, get you run out of town, make you lose a contract. I have stories collected over the years that make me feel not so alone on the fact that I lost a couple of jobs. I lost a job when, you know, my wife was like 8 months pregnant with one of our kids, right? I lost a job when my oldest was young. And it was all because of things I said, because of things that I wrote, because of my analysis of the situation. In a couple of cases, I've been canceled because of a vote that I made, right? Like while I was on the school board, I made votes for changing the school boundaries, made votes for trying to get 14 Black kids from the north side of Minneapolis into a white school in Southwest Minneapolis, got me canceled, right? And because I was unflinching about the fact, like, if you are canceling me for this, I don't give a damn, cancel me, right? Like because I didn't do the way some administrators do and other people do, which is, well, maybe we shouldn't push on the boundaries. I was like, hell to the no, we're going to push on these boundaries. Those stories can be dug up and used against me in a lot of different ways. I don't care, because it's the right thing to do. Trying to get those 14 Black kids into this, one of the best schools that we had in the district, was a battle, and it was a battle worth having. So sometimes, you know, Dr. King taught, like, you know, are the battles you're having the battles worth having? Because if they are, then live with them. Like, live with the consequences of that thing that you're going to do, and go for it. But yeah, like, they will try and get your funding taken away from you. They will try and get you, you know, you dismissed from panels or taken away. Like, Ray, you know this, like a year or so ago, sucker had me removed from a panel, from a national education conference panel, a sucker who will not be named, right? But right. But you just have to lead a sucker-free lifestyle, right? And make sure that you have your village. So I just wanted to come down on that point.
I try my best to live a sucker-free lifestyle, but reefer's in my life.
Listen, I've been sucker. Me and my cousin have been sucker-free since '88. So I don't know what you're talking about. So that might be something. That might be something that you newly on. We've been in that. We've been in that space. Yeah, you know what I mean. But, you know, you raised a good point. I remember not too long ago, there was an article about a principal who got fired for teaching CRT. She went to another city or town, and they literally followed her. These racists followed her to, and, you know, not that she was like a bad principal, or she did this to kids, or she did this to her families. She was teaching that anti-Blackness is wrong, that anti-racism is right. And they ran her out. I mean, there's like, you know, old school lynch mob, just now they just like, oh, I'm gonna show my face. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit different. But they followed her to another town to say, no, she's teaching CRT, and she's, you know, making us uncomfortable with the truth that about this country, and about this history, about the genocidal maniacs that have, you know, written constitutions, been elected, who've started wars, who've you know, leveled communities, like who've poisoned water and blankets. And so, like, that's what she, you know, like, that's what anything is about. This is what we're talking about, right? We're talking about hashtag teach truth. And so for people to be that livid where they want to attack, right? Like, not critiquing, like, okay, is this not factual? Because that'd be a different thing. Come at me and say, you know what? No, this fact is inaccurate. This is actually what happened. It's never about, like, why don't you come and say, this is not what happened? Instead, say, stop talking about that. You're a racist. Oh, you're causing dissent. You're all the distraction in the world. Like, no, let's go back to the basic point. This happened, and it continues to happen. It's flooded mindsets, including yours, and this is what informs your action right now, in this moment. That's what's informing your action.
Yeah. Hey, all my friends in the academy, shout out Charles. They always say, if you want to argue scholarship, you argue it with scholarship, right? And so a lot of times you'll see these folks, man, they out here using their opinions against scholarship. It's like, bro, I don't give a shit about your opinion. Like, if you want to change my mind, or you want to move me to the middle, bring me some scholarship, or write some scholarship that's based off of facts. That's gonna make me want to have a conversation with you. Like, I don't give a shit about your opinion. Everybody has an opinion about things.
Well, this is like part of the new word game that we're in, the word battle that we're in, the comms battle, the social media battle, which is you have people that have effectively rebranded some scholarship to be something that it's not, right? So all the scholarship that went behind, Yeah, I mean, like, listen, all of the scholarship around the experiences that our kids are facing because of their race in schools, all of the thing around teacher bias and white bias against our students, all of the stuff that's around why schools need to have training of their personnel to be more welcoming of our students or whatnot. They've tied that up into one big bow. They put a present, made that one big bow, and made that entire body of scholarship something that it's not. And now they can legislate around the miscommunications. Listen, someone 2 days or 3 days ago, I know you picked up on this, Sharif, but somebody 3 days ago tweeted about the four of us, saying they've called white people racial slurs for years and gotten away with it on the 8 Black Hands podcast, right? That's what's been part of this whole thing that came up this week, was that we're racist and we use racial slurs and we blah, blah, blah and whatnot. And talk about a rebranding of reality, right? Like, you know, you have really rebranded your idea about number one, what's the definition of racism and what racism actually is. Number two, what are the obvious signs of whether something is racist or not? Is it systemic or is it not? And all that type of thing or whatnot. And three, whether 4 Black men talking about the legitimate status of racism in America and how it plays out in systems is itself racist or whatnot. Bro, we're living in this weird universe where people have taken, to your point, Marlo Stansfield, people have taken the scholarship that supports all of our positions and rebranded it as something that it's not. And the audiences that they're going after aren't scholars, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, they're people that oftentimes don't have indoor plumbing. So, like, this is the
and they live in Indiana. Shout out to Indiana, though. I like Indiana. Hey, but bro, listen, man. When I was reading this stuff, I'm like, man, they gave you a layup because you've been trying to be racist all your life.
I mean, listen, y'all. I mean, Chris, you shared this with me 2 weeks ago when somebody threw my name in one of their academic articles or whatnot, and it's funny because it's somebody that I shot bail to. But it is what I read it and I was like, oh, this is not even good scholarship. But again, you can check my jacket. If you're trying to put up all the bad things I've done before, then put up the other stuff that I've done too. Pull up the kids that grew up in forced shelters that then built organizations that I've gotten hundreds, actually in the thousands of Black kids in the college, thousands that did not have the opportunities that I had, or check like what we've done across the country, or check like people that I made sure had a place to live, or check, you know, you want to talk about who Chris Stewart cares about or doesn't care about or whatever. We'll look at the other, that we don't even talk about the other organization that he built specifically for Black women that is now ran by Black women. Or you want to talk about Sharif or whatever Sharif says, whatever. Like let's really check his jacket as a school leader and just the national like love that he gets. Like that's not for nothing. Or you want to talk about Ray and where Ray came from, but like check the numbers around like this. Let's have this conversation around. If you can't stand in my face and say it, if you can't stand in my shadow and have half of the accomplishments for my community and stand on that, then what are we doing? You ain't nothing but a sucker, and you are standing behind the internet because you know you get to throw rocks and then play victim when somebody says something back to you. I don't care about you, dog. I don't care about you. And if you keep coming for me, and if you come for mine, and if you're trying to take food out of my mouth, or you're trying to cut off funding that serves hundreds and thousands of kids that I care about, that look like me, that you could give a damn about, I am not Chris, Ray, or Sharif. I love these brothers, man, but I'm telling you, yo, like, it's gonna be. I'm giving y'all props. Because I don't want to suck y'all into my comment. I don't want to suck y'all into my comment. But what I'm saying is, we're not playing the same game. This isn't just a game of shell moving around. I'm just gonna go from this company to this company. This ain't a game of like, oh, rich people like to sue each other. Ha ha, it's cute. No, man. I came from nothing, and nothing of which will I return, but I won't do it for nothing. And you need to sit and decipher that and what that means, man. And I'm telling you, these cats have had to walk me off a ledge. But check my jacket and check the good that I put in the world. And you trying to stop that good from happening, you ain't gotta like me, but you want to mess it up for everybody else. Because of your ego? Because you feel like this movement should belong to right-wing people? Is that what it is? You mad because somebody giving these people funding and you not getting it? Is that what we doing? We arguing about other people's money? Ain't our babies, ain't education supposed to be our linchpin? No, some of you cats done got lost, and some of you cats think shit is sweet. But I don't come from where you come from. So keep playing around and find out, fam. That's all I'm saying.
So let me hold up real quick. Let me just jump in here because I just want to put this energy out there, right? So yeah, you can say things about me, and yeah, I have the ability to go in and match wits and do Twitter feeds and do all these other things. But I also have the ability to beat your ass, right? And so I just want to make sure that we are clear on that like these things right here, they work and they work really well, right? Like, yo, that's a part of my jacket, right? Like, I will knock you out. And so I just want to put that out there just for me.
I will say this. The show is called 8 Black Hands when we come together. And the idea around the 8 Black Hands has always been consistent and real, which is our children are underprotected in the systems that they are in. The village, you come for our kids and you will catch these hands. And we always talk about the 8 million Black children in American public schools who are being treated wrong. And it's our duty, it's our responsibility to be warriors, to be fighters, to be for real. Now, how you fight is different for everybody, right? Like, we need people fighting at all levels, right? Like, we need people fighting listen, in every way possible, because the situation is so savage, right?
Yeah.
I just last week, in something that I was writing, I think I put it in that piece. I can't remember if I put it in the piece or not. I have this book by Jonathan Kozel called, it's not Savage Inequalities, it's the other one. The tagline in it is how the public schools of Boston break the hopes and dreams of Black children. And this was written way back in the 60s. And it's like, has anything changed since then, right? Like, somebody wrote a national book that was read by everybody that basically said the school system is breaking the hopes and dreams of Black children systemically. And the book goes through all of it. And if that's true, like, how do you feel about that? Is that worth fighting for in all different kinds of ways? And if you're out here fighting and talking about it, writing about it, and trying to change policy around it, somebody comes for you and tries to take you out of the game, is that worth fighting for? Like, and how would you...
Is that shame of the nation? Is that shame of...
No. Death at an Early Age. That's the name of the book. Death at an Early Age. The book is called Death at an Early Age. So I looked at two things. Here you have a white progressive guy writing a book called Death at an Early Age, How the Public Schools Kill the Hopes and Dreams of Black Children. And you have Kawan's book, or Juwan's, I'm sorry, Kunjufu's books around countering the conspiracy to destroy Black boys, right? Like, these are main titles that both Black and white people have written. If it is true that such a thing is taking place with Black children, is that worth fighting for? And if you become a fighter for that and someone tries to fight you to get you out of the game, is that worth fighting for?
100%.
Right? And how do you fight? Charles just gave him Charles gave a very clear warning of how he fights. Marlo Stanfield is given, his version of how he fights. We all are dedicated to the fight in one way, one shape or another. But all of it is legitimate, because what I wrote this week is what's being bestowed on our kids is actual violence. Right? Like, these things we talk about, they're not pretty book titles. They're not like little throwaway taglines. They're not T-shirts. They're not conference titles for conference PowerPoints. They're like real life violence.
Reality,
on the lives of Black children. And is that worth fighting for?
Yeah, 100% worth fighting for. Yeah, and I agree. There's all different type of ways. You got our pugilists, and there are other ways. Like some fight with this. And so. I think there's all, as you said, there's all different ways on a continuum to resist, to be a freedom fighter, to push in, to challenge, to upset, and flip the table in more ways than one. And I also want to just bring up a point that that Charles brought up. There's all the time with this attack, and it's been and you mentioned as well, like liberal. Right wing, left wing, or whatever, and we also know that sometimes the attacks will come from people who look like us, who have different philosophies and can't center the work on children. They often don't have solutions. All they have is finger pointing and name calling, and just as the kids say, just one to keep other people's names in their mouths, and other things in their mouths. Like they just constantly, and it's comedy, right? It's comedy and it's tragic comedy. There are often examples of tragic comedy because what they don't realize is it's like when sometimes in the Black community we have these broad generalizations. We came from kings and queens. No, we all did. We all actually did. We came from these all the freedom fighters. Like, no, you actually came from your line of thinking actually is the ones who told on the freedom fighters. You're actually the one that said, yo, they ran away. You're the one that actually said, hey, they're planning a rebellion. So let's stop doing these broad generalizations. No, all of y'all ain't that. It ain't what you claiming to be. And I'm not saying that your lineage is stuck forever, but when you show who you are, then I know exactly what you're descended from and what type of people you're actually a descendant from. And so we have to recognize, some people were running away and rebelling, and other people were snitching and telling. So we just gotta be clear about that, because that is that continues to happen. And then they want to throw up the the same type of lawn sign and T-shirt and all. Like, I love a T-shirt and I love good rhetoric, but you know what? I'm about outcomes first. If your rhetoric and your woke language ain't tied to actual outcomes, and then you want to just critique people actually doing the work, you're saying exactly who your ancestors are.
Listen, that was Jay-Z level double entendres in that piece, and I suggest people go back and listen to that. Sharif is the one that don't curse, but that was harder than any curse word. Sharif has been cursing. He's been cursing his ass off.
I sometimes your company influences your verbiage.
That was violent. I'll just give my little final thought for y'all, man. I think that for me, one, I appreciate you all, man. And let me just say, I'm a square. I just want to put that out there. I'm a square. I ain't looking for no trouble. And as 50 Cent would say, I say I don't want no problems, but you want a problem, I say no problem. So I'm not looking for nothing. But just don't bark up that tree. I think secondly, the other thing that these people did is they're doing what my grandmother taught me to do. Is I always find something specific and special that I love about the people that I love, and I try to compliment them on it. So in these attempts on the haters, I will end my piece by saying this: I love you, brothers, and I'm telling the three of them why. Chris, I love the way that you have always brought people together. The only reason the four of us even know each other is because Ray was in a similar situation, and I got a call from a Chris Stewart that I was cool with, and we was working on a relationship, but he just said, hey, there's a brother that needs us. That was the end of the questions. And so be it, this brotherhood began. So I love that he is always loaning that to people. Ray, your authenticity, and when we when me and you was like clicking, and it has been very well publicized that at times you and I like the closest, you know what I'm saying? Very similar and simple in those things. And I want you to tell more of your story, but I love where you started and where you are, and I'm looking forward to that growth that you're having and where you're going to continue to go. And Sharif, I've played with your children. I've gone and argued with a friend about finding the right gift. I've been welcomed into your home. You know what I'm saying? I've been around your wife. And just the way you have constantly and poured into me. And even when I've been like angry and on my stuff, man, it's like, and like you've like cried for me before, you know what I'm saying? So I love you, brothers. And if people think that a little punk ass article that ain't even written well, if you're gonna be real about it, that ain't even that dope, can come in between these chains that is locked, that can come in between this type of bond, that can do what they have done to Black people for centuries in this country and outside of it, of trying to divide and conquer, then you have another thing coming. We are the 8 Black Hands for a reason. This is Freedom Friday for a reason. And what God has ordained and built, no man can tear down. So quit playing with me, man. Quit playing with us and let us do our business for our people. If you don't care about our people, I don't care that you don't care, but get out the way. You can live your life. And I won't say nothing to you. I don't even know who the cat is that wrote the article. I don't know. Chris was like, we ain't gonna go in. I said, I can't go into names because I don't know these cats. And I don't care to know these cats because they don't impact my world in that same way. I'm too busy doing the work that God has bestowed upon me and trying to make myself a better person and growing my scholarship and growing my work and continue to help these Black babies get where they need and get what I didn't have, so they don't grow up broken and have to unlearn stuff like a lot of us did. So get out the way of the business. And if you're an ally and if you're holding purse strings and you got that, this is the show that you need to listen to. This is why you need to offer that support in our community. This is where we rally for each other. You deserve better than what you're getting. Don't get distracted by dumbass, baseless ass, shallow ass distractions that ain't worth your time. That's my final thought for the day. Thanks for having me.
I actually heard that. I think that's a song. Get out the way. Get out. Somebody was blasting. I had to put my windows up because they were too loud. I was trying to listen to the
No, Sharif, say the first part of the song. Go ahead, brother.
Ludacris.
Go
I
ahead.
don't know. All it said was like, "Get out the way, get out the
Move.
way."
Nah, they said something before that.
Yeah.
You know they said.
No, I missed that part. I missed that part.
Final thought from you, Marlo Stanfield.
Yeah, so my final thought is I'm gonna go a different route from I'm gonna go a different route from Charles. I actually look for violence in one way or the other, right? And so either it's through writing or even through like physical contact, which is my love language, right? Like beating your ass is my love language. And so if you think that you're gonna just frivolously throw my name out there and it just be okay, you're wrong. And when I see you, we gotta talk. And we gotta talk with my love language, right? Chris, man, salute to you, bro, because at the end of the day, you're out here doing the work, and we always say it. Charles always says it. If you don't have haters, you ain't popping, right? And so what this has showed me is that, damn, we on people's minds, right? And if we're on people's minds, then that means that we're doing the work that we need to do in order to agitate and be at the levels in which we need to be at, And shout out to us for our tour coming up. We adding cities. I'm seeing folks out here like, hey, why we not coming to Oak? Why we not coming to St. Louis? Why we not, all of these different places and whatnot? So you trying to shout, you trying to get us to come to your town and get things right, help you get things right. Hit us up. That's my final thought.
And Sharif El Mekki, brother, what's your last word of the day on Freedom Friday?
Yeah, my last word is, one, thank you for writing the piece. The folks that I've shared it with, have given really positive feedback. I think you're, my grandma used to say, hey, the boy got away with words. You know what I mean? Like I thought about her, as I was reading it. I'm like, man, Chris got away with words. And I think it is so important for communities to have people that can articulate the pain and the wins, the losses and the victories, and do it in a way that makes sense, that's coherent, that is, Malcolm used to say, make it plain, that it is plain. It ain't all high, diddy also, right? Like it is like straightforward, making it plain for the people, but also articulating what we're experiencing as parents, as community members, as educators, as human beings. And I think there's not enough of that. And so I applaud you. And, you start off the question, what should people do? When Dr. King said, if you want to change the world, pick up your pen and write. That's what you're doing. And that's what, we all do to some extent, but you have a gift with that. I encourage you, and you don't need my encouragement because you're going to keep doing this, but like, I applaud you to, and support your work in articulating in a way. You're like a griot in so many different ways, where you're talking about what's happening, what's going on. And the last piece is, people say that, when Africans were brought down to South America, many of us know that most of the Africans who were stolen out, from the continent and enslaved and brutalized went to South and Central America. That one of the first things that they banned was the drum. Why? Because the drum communicates. And this is it's the same pattern. This is what they want to ban. They want to ban free thinking. They want to ban communication. So keep playing that drum. Banned or not, haters or not, even if they detest it, keep doing it, bro. And we're here with you. So just shout out, appreciate it. If you have not read the piece, read it. If you have not shared it with your loved ones, share it. If you've not taught it, use it as a platform to teach in your courses, in your barbershop, in your conversations. use it. Because what should be happening is you should be hearing directly from students about their experience. And let the students say, no, this ain't my reality. No, Chris, you don't know what you're talking about. Let students say that. I dare you.
Mm. I appreciate all that, brother. I appreciate all of it. I tweeted out this week that this is my voice, this is my weapon of choice, which is a Grace Jones quote. And that's the way that I feel. Charles, you'll love me using a Stranger quote, Grace Jones. But I have always just thought about it this way. We all have a role to play, but we got to figure out what is the thing that we can do, that we do. Like, what native talent did God give you? My grandmother, it's funny that you mentioned grandmother, Sharif, because my grandmother said to me a long time ago, you have a way with words, or you have a gift for words. My mother has always said that. One of the last things my grandmother said to me before she passed away was that I was aimed at fighting the whole world, right? Like, and it was the words that I use that she saw as that particular fighting style of what I do. But what I have done is I've used that gift to lift up the people that I think are getting the job done for us that we need to get done. So when I talk about like why I love so much people like you all and Kaya Henderson and Naomi Shelton and Daryl Cobbs, all these different people of the world who I think are investing in building Black educational capital, it is because I have determined that that's not the work that I can do. That's not what I can contribute. That's not what I've been educated to do. That's not my background. But what I can do is support the people through words and commentary and communication who are actually building the solution for us for our future. Are the kids worth fighting for? Is the thing that we're trying to be free about worth fighting for? If it is, it's worth all of these efforts that you all are doing, that I'm doing. And I'm playing my one role, which is to log the story, to make the critique as I see fit, using whatever God has given me in my mind to be able to make it happen. So if you are listening to this and you are watching this and you are a person that doesn't always use your voice but wants to use your voice, I would just encourage you to, number one, have a village. Have a group of people that love you and love your mission so much that they are willing to stand with you through tough times, because there will be tough times. Two, always, if you think that you're going to say anything insightful or strong about the current power system and you're not going to face any type of rebuttal or problems, you are wrong. You need to investigate your own history of everybody who has struggled against power to see that you're going to encounter some problems. When you do encounter those problems, be transparent and be open about what those problems are, and be open to correction where you need to be, but stand on your mark where you need to stand on your mark also. The final thing and the last thing that I will say is that the motives of your haters is always going to be their hatred for the thing that you do. But the motive of what you do has to be what Charles said earlier, is your love for your people, or your love for your mission, or your love for your thing that actually drives you. And love will always beat the hate out. Even when they call you a hater, the reason people look at love and call it hate is because they are haters and they are looking through their lens, right? So let your haters do their jobs. As Cat Williams says, let your haters do their job. And you always have to be in touch with your star player. You got to be in touch with your star player, right? At all times. That is the best advice I've ever heard in my whole life, honestly. Be in touch with your star player. Let haters do their job, right? That's what we're about here. I appreciate all y'all and everybody who is listening and watching, who has come in to be with us today. This has been another Freedom Friday, and you are still not free, but hopefully you are freer at the end of this hour than you were when we begun it. Reach out to any of us if you have questions, and realize there are 8 million Black children who are not being educated the way that they should be. Anybody that comes for them will catch these 8 Black hands. Bring us to a city